Content warning. The following show contains tobacco smoking, discussions of fictitious language, a few things that might make people feel uncomfortable, and we want to make very clear we do our best to keep this family friendly, so we try not to get explicit in our descriptions about gore or things like dental surgery, maybe. But either way, viewer discretion is advised. But we think that this is a good place to bring your kids. But with that, hey, at least we said something. Hello, everybody. How you doing out there? This is Solar Gray, the cinematic sorcerer, coming at you from the Wizard's Tower. And welcome to the dark side of the room. This is the show where we talk about so many different things, most of them revolving around being a geek. I'm a level with you on that one. We are geeks, we are nerds, and we love it. We love it. That is correct. But if you don't think that you're a geek or a nerd, or there's not a fandom that you're with or anything like that, stick around because we have really good conversations one way or another. It's really just a fun place to hang out, a nice place to end your day when how can I put this? You're at work or you're driving home. If you're in Southern California or New York, God knows there's traffic. So tune in, stick around for a little while. And if you guys got any questions or comments or anything like that, all you got to do is tune in to your email and type in back in the deck at gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com. You can also tune in to Twitter or Instagram. I keep saying tune in. I don't know what's up with that. I'm just like, yep, tune in, all that other stuff. But yeah, check out all that stuff over on Instagram, Twitter, all those other places. And of course, if you're part of that wretched hive of scum and villainy known as Facebook, well, join the join the group Deckers on the Book, where you can talk with us, show us what you're working on, talk about nerd stuff and stuff like that. But I do want to put it out there. We try and keep stuff relatively positive and all that stuff. Major shout outs to my people on Twitch and my people on YouTube. What's up, Sofa King? What is going on? Hopefully we get more people in, talk about stuff and hang out, because I like hanging out with you guys. That's what we're doing, you know. Oh man, so it turns out this year TwitchCon is in Rotterdam and I'm not going. I'm not going. I can barely afford to drive across town. I will not be getting on an airplane in the next couple of months. And why is that? Because I'm broke. I'm so broke. I'm super broke. So this is what we are going to be doing, because how can I put this? You know, this channel could use a little bit of help. So what we're going to be doing to try and help this channel out, you might say, is to put up all of the ways that you can support us here, in addition to subscribing on, that's right, YouTube. Doesn't cost anything. push a button, really help us out there, because until we bust 1,000 subscribers, YouTube won't be pushing our algorithm, and that's just a thing. It's so dystopic and all that, but you would think that as a 47-year-old man, or a man that's soon to be 47, I wouldn't get involved in popularity contests, and now this is what I'm doing for a living. So isn't that fun? So anyhow, if you guys are interested in helping us out, you can join the Patreon, you can buy some merch, you can donate, direct donations, or buy me a coffee, because y'all might see that I drink a lot of coffee here. Not just while I'm on the air, but just in general. I just drink a lot of coffee. And let's get into this, because this is going to be a long show today, guys. And I mean that. It's a very long show today. So, if you're hobbying and doing all that stuff that you would normally do, feel free. Turn us on, put us on in the background, that kind of thing. But I want to talk today about some actual myths and some actual realities about gaming culture that we have within gaming culture. Not the normal myths that you talk about or that you hear people talk about, like we're unhygienic, overweight, acne filled people that live in our mother's basements. That was the 80s, y'all. And most of the people that were like that now work for NASA, Paramount, Amazon, excuse me, Universal, Disney, and Warner Brothers, okay? Everybody's awkward as a teenager and all of that stuff. What's going on, Neon? Oh, man. But no, some of the myths that I want to talk about with y'all today there are some illusions, some thoughts, some ways that people think um, being specifically a tabletop gamer works, okay? There are so many illusions, all right? So many illusions. And of course, with the proliferation of the internet, things have gotten a little different on that front as well, okay? So, let's get started here. You see, I was expecting a house guest last week, and that being the case, I had to clean my whole house. And that kind of fits because, it was April, or actually it's May. So it's spring. So I was doing some spring cleaning. And spring cleaning is expensive, guys. You might not think so, but cleaning products hiked in price. And garbage disposal, bruh, let me tell you. The dumps and stuff over by where I live, they charge by the pound. Just think about that when it comes to like stuff that don't fit in your trash can. Just think about that. But I came across something that I hadn't seen in a while because I have so much stuff. And that is an old copy of my Apotheosis book. Apotheosis was the third book from War Machine by Privateer Press. The way that they had their thing going, oh my god. Dumps and stuff. Cute. Um, they every new edition of War Machine that comes out, it's called Prime, and then they release a second book, and then a third book, and then they do a new edition. At least that's the model they used to have. And all the new models and stuff that would come out for the game would be in the additional books. We didn't have to go through Codex Creep or anything like that. Um, and Apotheosis was the third. It went Prime, Escalation, Apotheosis, and then second edition, which was fun and interesting. But I started thinking back to my days of really becoming a social gamer in the sense of, hanging out at game stores and, um, meeting other gamers. And of course, I was working at a game store at the time. And there are some rules that kind of go unspoken unless you're an employee. And a lot of these rules kind of infiltrated my other gaming group. Okay. And that is this: when you go to a game store, okay, and this is an illusion, I might lose my card for this, but you go to a game store, if you're going to play, hey Zan, if you're going to play in a game store with their stuff, especially at an organized event, you are going to be playing the current tournament rules for whatever game property you're using, okay? Now, stores make this very clear. It makes it very, 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 very clear. All right. If you go to like Friday Night Magic, they're gonna say, "Well, we're playing Commander, or we're playing Planeswalker, or we're playing something. We're playing All Star, whatever it is that you're playing. They'll make that clear." But at the game store that I worked at, when I taught games, I had to teach the most modern game with the most modern rules and the most modern erratas or data slates or whatever the new upgrade for the rules were. And this was a little odd because it was 2003 and not everybody had the internet. Got kind of expensive. And the reason for that is because we sold those games. So it wasn't very useful to teach someone an older edition of a game. Like D&D 3.0 just came out, and or 3.5 just came out, and we could teach them 3.0, but we couldn't teach them second edition. Okay, because there wasn't much second edition on the shelves to sell, and Wizards stopped producing it, so putting it on order would be difficult, and we would essentially be training a player to be a customer elsewhere. Okay. However, with the proliferation of the internet and YouTube and forums and all that stuff specifically, we've gotten a lot of illusions when it comes to games, a lot of myths. And I wanted to tackle some of those today. All right. Um, Now, one of the biggest myths that come along, and this is for essentially you guys that well, how can I put this? I'm going to put this realistically, and when I say realistically, I'm going to mean this honestly, because when I say this, people often reply, "No, that's not me." Stop, okay? If it's not you, cool, but I'm talking the majority of people out there. All right? And the number one thing that becomes a thing when you go online to forums or YouTube channels or anything, most of the information that they give you, and this is to stay relevant, to get viewers, and to make sure that money can flow, is keeping up with the meta. Now, what does that mean? um, and so, real talk, okay? When it comes to keeping up with the meta, keep dropping my mouse here. Um, Number one, what is the meta? The meta in itself, okay, is the current trend on what is doing well within the competitive scene, okay? And a lot of folks, especially if you're new to these spaces, kind of get stuck in this thought process of, well, if that is what is big at tournaments, and that is what all of the podcast 90% of the playthroughs are for, um all of that jazz, and that must be the way the game is played. Okay, now let's take some of the more popular games that are out there, specifically Warhammer 40K, Magic the Gathering, and in a lot of ways Dungeons and Dragons, at least as of like a year and a half, 2 years ago. Okay, um so, what you end up getting is what's doing well in the tournament, what teams are doing well, what factions, what colors. I don't care if you're playing Magic the Gathering, Yu Gi Oh!, Pokemon. You know, you can always find online who's winning the tournaments, what teams they're playing, what decks they're playing. And a lot of folks end up trying to keep up with the meta or meta chasing because one, they want to play, two, they want to win, three, if they're not necessarily trying to win, they believe that if they play the game with someone and they're not doing that, they are going to get stomped. Okay? And in all honesty, that is not a really big thing. That really isn't a big thing if you're just playing the game. Now, what do I mean with that? Well, if you take a game like Marvel Crisis Protocol or Carnivale or even Warhammer 40K, um, I don't I don't do any official polls or anything like that, but I talk to people who do and I read the data and things like that. And the data actually states that the people that you see at organized play events, be it tournaments or expos or anything like that, really only makes up about 5% of players. Five. 5%. Where are the other 95%? In all honesty, they're at home washing their tights. No, they're playing at home with their gaming group or their group of friends. And this is really, really big. Okay. When you're trying to keep up with the meta, you end up going through the illusion of necessity. Ooh. Now, what does that mean? Why am I doing all this stuff? All right. If you follow the meta, you'll see that, let's take Warhammer 40K for example. Um, the elves are winning all the tournaments, so you should play the elves if you want to play a game. Or if you fall into the trap of, well, if I play at a store and I get a pickup game with somebody, I should play the elves so that I have a higher chance of winning. I want to bust that bubble right now. Okay. Chances are the pickup game that you're going to get is not going to be a game that you can get. Most of the time, in the 21st century at least, okay, and I'm Generation X and I'm trying to keep up with the times, all right? It used to be you could go hang out at a game store, find somebody that plays the game that you play, and have a game if you've got your stuff and they've got their stuff. But life has sped up since the 90s, all right? So chances are now, if you want to play a game, you have to be part of a store's Discord server and you make an appointment with someone to play a game if you don't already know them. It generally is what we used to have called looking for groups on the pin boards to going on Discord and saying, hey, I'm free on Wednesday. Who's up for a game of Kill Team? I'm free on Friday. Who's up for a game of 40K? Let's do 1,000 points before the store goes into Friday Night Magic. Who's gonna be at Friday Night Magic? It's that kind of thing. All right. Um, so most of the time, this necessity is brought about when it comes, and we'll get into this a little later on in the show. But this idea that you're going to be able to walk into a random game store and make a game. Oh, stop it, Zen. I'm not yelling at Cloud. Mm. I'm literally just stating that things are different. I don't have an opinion about it one way or another. Um, I'm just saying these are the new social rules, okay? And if you want to play with someone outside of your immediate circle, this is what you got to do. All right? These are the new rules. That's just the way it goes. Um, but this illusion of necessity is pushed really strongly within keeping up with the meta as the only way to succeed. Okay, it's really, really big. I know. I watch Play on Tabletop, Mini Wargaming, um, Tabletop Tactics, and Auspex Tactics from time to time. Just when it comes to 40K, when it comes to D&D, I keep up with XP to level 3. I watch Critical Role. I do a lot of stuff. Okay. Um, and the major thing they all have in common is that they are putting this information out there for money. And what that means is they have to stay new. They have to stay new. They have to stay relevant. Um, which means they have to talk about the new stuff, the new controversies, the new discussions. Um, just within the past couple of weeks, Games Workshop just released the Adeptus Custodes Codex. Okay, and I'm gonna let y'all know this right off the top. I haven't gotten many Warhammer 40k games in. Okay, primarily because of the distance to my game store and a lot of that stuff, which means I have to build a community from scratch within my local area. And the last thing I'm going to do while building a community is tell them that they have to spend all the money in the world on something that's going to be outdated in 1 to 3 years that cost $50 plus all of the figures and all of that stuff. Um, so, what do? I got the index cards. Okay, I got the index cards, and I play with the index cards for 10th edition. But Solar, people are all, they keep updating the data slates and doing, and I'm like, look, guys, that's great. I don't play competitively, and the data slates give this illusion of necessity. Um, that you have to keep up with the latest rules if you're going to play in tournaments. That's that whole meta thing, all right? Now, a lot of people try and keep along with it. Um how do I keep my immersion without official art? You're cute and I know that's a baiting question. And you're a master at that. What I will say is a lot of the times there is a thing about playing with the current rules and all that stuff of the current rules are easy to find, the meta's easy to find, all that other stuff. You can take a look at sites like Aspects Tactics, Poor Hammer, and listening to their podcast and stuff like that. You can do a lot, okay? Um, but what this tends to give you is the illusion of stability, okay? And I mean that, the illusion of stability. Um, I said earlier how playing by the tournament rules and only by the tournament rules was something that infected, or sorry, um, infiltrated. No, there's no good word for it. It seeped in to my regular gaming group. Okay. And when I say it seeped in, none of my War Machine players, except for one War Machine player out of my group of 11 people, actually went to tournaments. Okay. Just one of them. However, we kept up with the meta, we kept up with the newer ratas, we did all that stuff, and I'm like, hold up, guys. Um, now the game is not getting very fun. It's turning into 30 hours of homework for 3 hours of gaming. And in their world, that was the hobby. That was the whole allure of it. Now, I'm not really big on the hobby aspect, like I say. Yes, I do paint tutorials here and on the Patreon. Yes, I kit bash. Yes, I build terrain and things like that. But that's not my main jam, okay? That is, and by my main jam, I mean that's not the part of this stuff that I would do if I were by myself, okay? A lot of my gaming friends are less gaming friends and more hobby friends, you know? And I've had to point this out to them in the sense of just by the amount of time and money spent, they have no problem spending 22 hours modeling their miniatures, another 18 to 30 hours studying rules, reading lore, um, coming up with unbeatable combinations of power, just going through the fluff and the crunch, only to play maybe a game a month. And that's not my jam. That's not my jam. I like rolling the dice. I like doing the pew pew. I like playing with the toys. Um, and that being said, I was incompatible with this gaming group because I was all about the playing of the game. But with the illusion of stability, they kept up with the tournament rules and played only by the tournament rules because, and I quote, those were the rules that people were paid handsome salaries to make sure they are most balanced and most fair. And I go, well, that's a really, really, really interesting point of view. Okay, that really is. But what I saw in practice was that keeping up with the meta with the most popular games tends to mean that your games are won and lost within your deck building or within your team composition. Um, now, I will be honest with you guys. There are so many people out there that go, "No, you can just play what you want, just not with me, just not here." How do I know? Um, so after you watch this show, if you end up modeling or you want to watch a battle report, Play on Tabletop did a live stream of a battle report today with my two main factions. Okay, it was Custodes versus Thousand Sons, and I'm like, I don't know who to root for, and they're like, dude, root for either one. I'm like, they're both my main factions, you know. Um, but the thing is, um, you know, but the main thing is, and this is a big thing on that. When I chose my teams, I couldn't find a single person to play with. When I decided to choose my Smurfs, I got a couple of games in. But when I played Thousand Sons as my main, yeah, good luck. When I picked Custodes, nope, they're too powerful. You're a power gamer. I'm not going to play with you. And I'm like, okay. But play what you want. See, we got Xanathades paid handsomely to make sure they're balanced, just like your old game store paid you to teach any game, even if it wasn't the new one they were selling. Exactly, exactly. Now, again, I'm not upset with that. I'm really not upset with balancing the data slates and all that stuff. I'm not a big I'm not a hater on erratas or data slate balances or whatever the companies have. But this idea that the way that the games are being played in tournaments are fair and stable is an illusion because after the next big event, be it the Las Vegas Open, Strategicon, LA Games Expo, San Diego, or New York Comic Con, all of those stable rules are going to change depending on how those tournaments go. Now, like I said, if you're part of that scene, okay, if you're part of the scene and you want to keep up with that and that is your jam, if you're looking at this like college basketball or, that kind of thing, cool, keep that up. But know that these reasons are not quite true, all right? Um, all of these things tend to be the talking points, but in reality, okay? In reality, tournament rules change to make sure that there aren't so many feel bad moments and players aren't so tilted that they stop playing. All right? That is a really, really, really big thing when it comes to these kinds of things because again the companies are in the business of selling things. Games Workshop is in the business of selling toys. WizKids is in the business of selling you different poses of the same superheroes over and over and over again. All right. Um, and no shade on them whatsoever. However, if you're a casual player like I am, okay, um, there's a lot of things that are out there, and a lot of these illusions, in my opinion, come from a huge, huge dose of copium from the people that are suffering from the sunken cost fallacy. Okay. Um, it's interesting because, again, that idea that there are people at these companies that are paid handsomely to make sure that everything is balanced gives the illusion of superiority. Ooh, what are you talking about, Saul? Well, like I said, the illusion that the way that we're putting out is the best way to play the game. Okay? I mean, seriously, think about it. If you look at HeroClix, they make very clear in the HeroClix guidebook that the recommended playing size is 300 points. 300 points of superheroes. That's it. Now, if you've never played HeroClix, I will tell you this. Most versions of Superman are over 100 points. All right? At 300 points, you will never, ever, ever be able to play the popular lineups of the most popular teams. Okay? I'm sorry to tell you that's just like if you want to play the Avengers, 300 points will probably get you Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, and one other person. Okay? That's it. But you're not getting the movie Avengers team. You're not getting Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. You're just not getting those guys. Okay? Not for 300 points. And we have gone over the numbers over and over and over again. Um, in my case, I'm never going to get the Magnificent Seven of the Justice League. Ever. Not at 300 points. It's not available. All right? In order to get that, you have to play 700 to 1,000 points. And there are very rarely any company sanctioned tournaments that will allow you to play the teams that you're imagining. Very similar with Marvel Crisis Protocol, although they're a lot better. Um, if you if you find, say, any Warhammer board, okay, any Warhammer forum board, ask anyone the last time they played a 500 point game. Okay, y'all know I fell in love with 40K when they released the combat patrols. They reminded me very much of the starter packs from any card game. All right. Um, However, the only time I ever see starter packs in card games played is at Friday Night Magic when they do a draft game. All right, that's it. The starter pack, two boosters, boom. That's where you see that played. All right. But most of the time, I don't see, privately or publicly, people saying, "Hey, let's get 500. Let's get a 500 point Warhammer game in." They might end up playing Kill Team. Um, Now HeroClix was a little different, Well, not really, because these are all starter things. Now, when the books recommend a certain point cost, they end up recommending what becomes the tournament rule. So with 40K, they have three or four different ways to play. You can play 500, you can play 1,000, you can play 2,000, you can play 5,000. But 90% of the tournaments that you see will be 2,000 points. So that is what most people are going to play by default. With HeroClix, same thing. You're going to end up playing 300 points. Um, and with, again, most games, they're balanced or the rules are written for tournament play because that's what keeps people buying, okay? And it's not because of the illusion of superiority. It's not that it's a better way to play, okay? Because if you are a casual player like myself, there is no best way to play. You know, um, I hear a lot of people who played games at one time and now spend most of their time talking about it, talk about how they like playing games. Well, I need good lore. I need narrative. Um, I like to play missions. I like to do that stuff. And I'm like, okay. Hey, Knights of G. Um, like seriously, a lot of people have this thought process that chasing the meta and doing those particular things are a better way to play. And the fact of the matter is, there is no best way. There's no perfect game. There's no best way to play a perfect game. Um, Not by meta chasing, specifically because, and this is a really really big one, guys. All right. Um, when you chase the meta or try and keep up with the Joneses, you are going to be taking a second mortgage out on your house. I'm sorry, that's just the way it goes. Now, again, a couple of days ago, I pointed out the difference between what we're told and what we're taught. And I want to bring up that difference right now, okay? We are told by people, play what you want. You don't have to chase the meta. Um, you don't have to do all these things. That's what we're told, right? But what happens when we actually try to play? All right? Unless we have our own community, and like I said, I'll be getting to that in this episode. Unless we have our own specific community, then we're stuck doing what's popular. And I'll tell you why. If you're not playing what's newest and brightest, and you have a rules question, if you ask a question on a forum, you will either be viciously mocked, told the answer to your question within the context of the latest meta, or both. Okay. If you look for a video explaining this, you will get 60 videos answering your question within the current meta. If you don't believe me, ask a question about the Beastmen in Warhammer 40K 3 months from now. I'm saying, or in Age of Sigmar, 3 months from now, because they've just been taken out of the game. Like they're not there anymore. So if you have any rules questions or any tactical questions, I'd say by August you won't get an answer to that question. All right. So you're told you can play what they want. Hey, Emperor Panda. Um, you're told that you can play what you want, but in practice, what we're taught by people's behavior and our interactions with them is completely different. All right? Seriously. And that really, 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 um, really leads me into talking about something that I really like. Okay. Now, again, when I said my next few games of Warhammer 40K, I'm going to play with the index cards, just the index cards. Why? Because I can have them at my access at any time. Okay. I have the index cards. I have the point cost for when the index cards came out. So that means my gaming is locked at the beginning of 10th edition. Okay, it's locked there. Will I be keeping up with the new releases and stuff? If I think they're cool, yes. Like if Thousand Suns gets some more models, then yeah, sure, I'll keep up with them. But locking yourself within a specific time period of play does limit your gaming potential. Okay. because most people are going to be chasing the meta, even if they don't believe they are. However, um, this brings me to what inspired today's episode. Again, I was cleaning my house and I found an older book from first and second edition War Machine. We're up to fourth edition, and fourth edition really hit me in the teeth with this illusion of superiority because as games move on, if you're trying to stay with the neatest and latest and brightest, I brought up Beastmen. I know that pain. When War Machine came out with their latest edition, not addiction, um, they eliminated my entire faction. And when I mean that, I mean when I started playing, I played a specific faction, and now it is no longer there. My characters gone, most of them. Most of the jacks I played with gone. Most of the infantry I played with gone. So if I'm going to play this game, I have to find somebody that's willing to play the game through an older edition. And that brings us to one of my favorite topics, okay? And I mean this. This is really one of my favorite topics. Older editions and OG games. All right? Older editions and OG games. I am such a fan. Okay? Yeah. Yeah. All right, we got some people going, "Ooh." Like, yeah. Um as I said, guys, most gaming companies create games to make money. And in order to make money, they have to constantly release stuff. Okay? Artists need to be paid. Shipping people need to be paid. The warehouse people need to be paid. Um, all right, so they have to keep releasing stuff. Okay? Now, if you guys end up watching anything involving nerddom, I don't care if you're looking at Warhammer 40K stuff or video game stuff or anything. There's this thought process that old equals bad. Okay? Um all the painting videos that I particularly watch or a lot of the podcasts I listen to um talk about games getting stale, models needing a refresh, just oh, those models look old now. They need to release new ones so that I can spend more money. Yeah, sure. And again, that's what a lot of the companies are out there for. If you play Magic the Gathering, you know this for real because you still go through 4 new sets a year. Okay? Your base set, okay, your core set, and your 3 expansions. All right, there's always releasing something new. I got yeah, Magic folks are always spending money, and that keeps gaming stores alive and bless them for it. However, I had to get out of games that were on the collectible models, such as um, Star Trek Attack Wing, Star Wars X Wing, Magic the Gathering, Lord of the Rings, um, pretty much all collectible card games. Because what do you do with all the outdated cards? Again, I'm about to date myself as 47 years old. It was like drowning in America Online sample CDs. Oh my God. Yeah, Netrun. Well, Netrunner's a little different because it didn't release so much so quickly. But yeah, the amount of cards, you know, I know I only had a 5,000 count box of Netrunner cards, but I can't tell you how many Magic cards I can't give away. So what do we do about this stuff? You know? And that's a really, really, really big thing. Now, older game editions, because of marketing, and that's really all this is, okay? It comes with the illusion of obsolescence. Okay? This idea that new is best. Okay? And don't get me wrong, in game mechanics and win statistics, yes, new is better because power creep is real. However, is new best because of victory ratio or because of fun? Now, I'm not going to lie. Um, I recently started teaching some folks at my friendly local gaming store War Machine 3rd edition. 3rd edition was my favorite edition because it had a game mechanic that I had been wanting from day one. Okay, it really helped with resource control. Long thing, I might do a show on it. I'm not sure. That all depends. Let me know with bits if you guys want me to start doing retro game reviews and lessons. But I may do that on Patreon. We'll see. But this illusion of obsolescence, this thing that says that card is no longer viable within play, that unit is no longer viable within play. What does that actually mean? Well, through my years of experience and my research, I've seen that that stuff is no longer viable for modern play in modern organized spaces, okay? Um when Neon Arlecchino and I first met, we were playing Hero Clicks and I brought my 10-year-old clicks to a tournament. And oh my god, did I get stomped. There was just so much power creep between the first two editions when I first started playing and the 8 years that I took off. And honestly, still the friendliest community of gamers I'd ever met. The War Machine community from the beginning was second. And a lot of the models that I had been ruled out, priced out. The numbers just weren't going anymore. Like, their stats were just too low to hit anything that was new. And it became interesting. Now, did I get rid of those models? Yes, I got rid of those models. Only because the newer ones that were coming out at the time looked better than the old ones. There were still a few that I kept because they stopped making them. But the fact of the matter is, can I sit down and play the first two editions of HeroClix? Well, I still got the rules, I still got some boards, and I still have a lot of the stats from those first and second edition figures. Was the game balanced? No. Did they represent the comic characters as they were in the comic books? No, and they still don't. Um, that's not a game that really goes for that. But do I sit down and still play some of the older editions? I absolutely do. You know, not just out of nostalgia, but because a lot of older games. Oh, Ohio, oh no 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 no. Konbawa, konbawa, Roland-san. Genki desu ka? Um, but yeah, when it comes down to playing older games, when you want to play an OG game, it becomes more and more possible if you're a former meta chaser. And I will tell you why. If you go to a friend's house who's been a gamer forever, what you will see on their bookshelf is an entire library of games from when they didn't have the responsibilities they have today. Yeah, Cyberpunk 2020. One of my closest friends has every single book that was published for Pathfinder First Edition. And if I want to play Pathfinder First Edition, I know where to go. Another one of my friends has, actually about four of my friends have all the books from all of the different worlds of second edition D&D. We're talking Dragonlance, Planescape, Forgotten Realms, just all of that stuff from the days where THAC0 was a thing. You look at my bookshelf, you will see a large library of 3.0 and 3.5 when Open Gaming License first became a thing. And all of these games are still playable because it's not what you play, it's who you play with and why you play. This is one of the reasons that I'm sticking with the index cards for Warhammer 40K because I learned 10th edition. Actually, I learned 9th edition. Then I learned 10th edition. The index cards came out for 10th edition, and I bought them when I had the money. Oh, dude, Spelljammer. Yeah, yeah, seriously. They still have all of the Spelljammer. My boy the Viking has all the Spelljammer for the second edition. Okay. Um, and he is passionate about it. And it all came out, you know? Um, yeah, I mean, quite seriously. Um, the older games are not bad games. And how do I know? Because they keep releasing editions. All right. If you release a bad game, you're not getting a second edition of that game. No one's going to buy it. No one's going to play it. No one's going to like it. Okay. And one of the reasons that I don't get stuck in this cult of new, okay, this cult of new, this, the game is only good if it's been released in in the past 2 or 3 years, is because the games from all of our childhoods have still made millions of dollars releasing the same stuff they were releasing in the 1940s. Monopoly has not changed. Risk has not changed. Okay, and don't get me started on chess, Go, Mancala, and Chinese chess. Just don't. All right. A good game is a good game. It doesn't have to be new. And yeah, a lot of people are like, but no, my immersion. That's for them. Okay. Wow, the GI Joe RPG. Now that's taking me back. I still like the third edition of Big Eye Smallmouth. Okay. Um, you know, are some of the rules janky? Every set of rules for any game other than Monopoly and even Monopoly is janky. Sorry to tell you guys, every single set of rules is janky when you are learning them for the first time. Okay? Some folks like massive amounts of crunch, and they play Pathfinder. A lot of folks um, love fluff. A lot of them love fluff so much that they barely ever get around to playing the games. I'm looking at you, 40K. Um, and none of these ways are bad. Okay? But again, what a lot of this stuff gives is the illusion of obsolescence. Okay? Now, this is big. All right? The illusion of obsolescence is backed up by power creep. All right? The idea that what has just come out is more powerful than what came out last time. And Magic the Gathering is a wonderful example of this because they have so many releases, as I said, for a year. Okay, and what they do with their tournament scene is when they release a new block every year, they cut off the block that's 3 years old. So this year, they're killing the block of 2021. All right, so you get to play all four blocks or all the blocks from 2022, 2023, and modern. Okay, but if you want to play something from 2018, not at tournaments unless it's a legacy tournament. You see what I mean? Um, and this illusion of obsolescence is essentially this idea that since what just came out is more powerful than what came out last time, it's not compatible. Okay, it's not, the stuff that's out today is not compatible with the stuff that was out yesterday. And this is sometimes true, sometimes not. As I brought up with my HeroClix experience with Neon Arlecchino, um, the stuff that I was playing them with was not compatible with what they were playing within the concepts of how we were playing. Hey, Daryl, what's going on, bro? Um, let's see what we hear. They increased the gap, but you're right. Yeah, okay. So you can't play stuff from 2017 in tournament right now. Is that better? Um, but again, that is still a major thing. All right. However, that incompatibility is an illusion. It really, really, really is an illusion. And how so? How is it an illusion? Well, there are different phases of play within the psychology of a gamer. Okay. A tournament player is playing with their gotta go, it's game time face on. All right. Um, I know um when I got out of War Machine, it was because a lot of 40K tournament players had gone into War Machine because they didn't like, I believe it was 7th or 8th edition 40K. And they brought that competitive spirit into War Machine. And War Machine at the time was not designed for it. Okay? And what do I mean? War Machine was a skirmish game. 40K players wanted to turn it into an army game. Um, as a skirmish game, it was a little bit of infantry, a lot of robots, and a leader. Okay. And one of the victory conditions was kill the leader. All right. Which means an assassination play was one of the quickest ways to win a game. But they wanted to bring maybe one robot or two robots and a whole bunch of infantry, and it eventually started looking like a 40K team with four different types of infantry out there being used for sort of spamming things, not very many robots and all that stuff. And they were playing for assassination instead of um, objective control because that was the quickest and easiest way to win, and that's what they brought out. Then 8th edition came out. They went on to, or yeah, 8th edition came out and they went back to 40K, but most of the War Machine players had left because they weren't having fun anymore. Okay. Again, a skirmish game had been turned into a war game and it wasn't designed that way. So, um, but this illusion of incompatibility, okay, this illusion of incompatibility is all based on this idea, okay? It's all based on this idea that what's old does not work with what's new. However, if you actually want to play what you want, you just need a small community of people to play a certain edition. Okay? I mean, that's it. Tabletop role players, y'all know this. Y'all know this hard because sometimes no one ever says, and no one really gets together with their gaming group and has a tribunal. All right. What normally happens is someone says, "Hey, I feel like running a game of 5th edition Call of Cthulhu. Who's in?" And that's how it goes. "Hey, I'm running a 2nd edition game. Anybody want to play?" Um, and this is very easy to do. Hold up. With games outside of tabletop role playing games. In fact, this particular means of playing is one of the things that I think, actually, I know that every other genre of tabletop game can benefit from within their culture. But see, a lot of people believe that because it's new, it's better because it's been improved upon, you know? Um, and that's not really the case. I mean, it has been updated, but are the updates improvements? You know, a modern example, um, using the Adeptus Custodes from Warhammer 40K and their new codex. Wait. I'm not talking about that. All right. Within their codex, they lost one aspect of their martial katas. Okay, their katas used to give them, I believe, three different benefits. I think it was like sustained, devastating, and then something reducing damage. And that's pretty cool. Okay. In the latest codex, they removed one of them. I haven't read the codex entirely, but yeah, one of them is gone, and it's not coming back for a while. Now, is that an improvement? Maybe. It might be an improvement. I have no idea what they're releasing as far as the custodies go between now and the next edition. No idea. Hopefully, they'll bring stuff back from Forge Worlds because that stuff is way too expensive, even for Warhammer 40K. Um, but this progression stuff, yeah, not gonna lie, sometimes, quite often, new editions are made to iron out some of the kinks in the last edition. Um, quick thing, since I was talking about how War Machine Third Edition was my favorite. Well, in War Machine, you have your general called a Warcaster. They have X amount of focus points. Call them mana, call them magic points. Don't care what you call them. And in order for your giant robots to do anything other than walk and punch, okay, you have to give them these little focus points. They even need them to run or charge. And running means they double their movement. Charging means they can run and hit with a higher damage output. Pretty easy, okay? Um, however, each Warcaster came with a different amount of these focus points to distribute, and they use them for spells and armor bonuses. So it's there was a lot that these little magic points did. And in third edition, um, they retooled the cost of bringing robots to the field. Okay, you got X amount of points in just robot points that didn't count against your army, which was cool. But also, um, so there's a shared pool of actions for your entire team. For your battle group, not for your infantry, okay? Your infantry could move and do all that stuff the way they would normally do. But your robots were controlled magically by your Warcaster, okay? And in third edition, they retooled the point cost so that you could bring more robots, all right? Which is how the game was pitched all the way back at first edition. And each robot generated one focus point each, and that was huge. Okay, number one, they at the max they could hold three, but one focus point to each one was huge. It's really big. Okay, that meant that every robot that you brought to the scene could do something cool. They could wrestle another robot, they could headbutt, they could charge, they could run, they could do any one of those things on their own. And you didn't have to play the resource game as hard. And that was the thing I wanted from the first edition. Okay. I thought that was really cool. Let's see here. Hey, Ernie, what's going on? Custodies is a bit flawed in rules where place oh, the index rules you mean, right? Let's see. Index rules were placeholders till the codex came out. Yes, they were. And they weren't horribly flawed to my knowledge. Again, I'm only going to use the index cards because I don't want to pay $50 for a book that I'll have for the next 3 years and then I won't be able to get rid of because there aren't very many collectors. um but yeah, I mean, it's definitely a thing, but that idea of okay, the new stuff that's out is better than the old stuff is still an illusion. It's an illusion of progression. It's an illusion. Again, these are all marketing illusions. All right. So that's a really big one. OP. Maybe. I don't know. I haven't gotten many games in. um, but when we go on to that, this brings us to a really big thing, which is playing at home versus playing at clubs or your friendly local gaming store. Okay? Now, this one is really big. All right? When we talk about playing, again, I'm of the school and I'm waiting. I'm seriously waiting to be disproven on this one. But the idea of a pickup game without an appointment is still very um illusory. Okay, I mean seriously, it really is. I've yet to be able to walk into a game store and say, "Hey, you got your 40K stuff with you. You up for a quick game?" Have not been able to do that. Now, making appointments with people, yeah. Um, However, because of those those studies that I mentioned earlier, 95% of people um play at home. That's where most people do. Okay? Um they play in their garages. They play in their game rooms. They play with their friends. Okay? Um Hang on. That's better. And I'm a big fan of that. I really am a big fan of that. Now, both of these places have a really big um have really big advantages and have really big drawbacks. So let's go over some of them. Now, when you play in these places, all right? Um Playing at home is pretty big. All right? It's really big. Playing at home is something that you can do if you have a large enough pool of community. Okay? What does that mean? I don't mean people that play the game. I mean people, or should I say, I don't mean people that talk about playing the game and talk about the game. I mean people that actually put models on boards and dice in dice rollers. The people that have the books and pull out their character sheets and swing on the chandelier um, and really actually do the experience. Okay. This also counts as hobby time as well. The people that get together and have a hobby day. But playing requires, unless you're doing tabletop simulator, and that's a totally different kettle of fish. Um, but when it comes to playing at home versus a store, now personally, I love playing at stores. Okay, stores are a dedicated third space. All right, and most stores that you go to, most stores, most gaming clubs, most third places that you have to play these games have their own terrain. And that's big. They have their own terrain and they have tables already set up. This doesn't sound like a big thing if you guys aren't regular gamers, but sound out in the comments on both YouTube and Twitch if um y'all know and appreciate the storage and spatial cost of being in any of these hobbies. Okay, I mean that I'm serious about that. I'm the spatial cost. I myself have a relatively decent sized house and I live by myself, so I have storage space. I have gaming space, but most people don't. If you live in a one bedroom apartment or a two-bedroom apartment with roommates, where are you going to set up a dinner table to play 40K? Okay. How much space do you have to have five friends over to run Dungeons and Dragons? And if um and if you have all these things, how much closet space do you actually have for your terrain? And this is coming from someone who makes collapsible and portable terrain, so I can take a full game board, put it on the back of a motorcycle, and like magic, set it up anywhere. However, how many of you guys have the space to set up a table and do the whole immersion of the full tabletop miniatures game playset, you know, or pull out the D&D map with the castle and the minis and all that, let alone when you have all that set up, where are people going to keep their character sheets and their soda and their chips? You know, I mean, it's a big ask. Okay, so clubs and friendly local gaming stores are amazing for this. And a lot of them charge money, but I'll tell you what, $5 for a dedicated table that's been put together specifically for playing and using store terrain that all I have to do is put back in their bin and put where they set aside in their store to use. Oh my God. It is amazing. And if you guys are ever in Southern California, you guys should check out both Brookhurst Hobbies and Brookhurst Hobbies in Garden Grove, California. It's like I believe $5 for the day or something like that. Um and the Guild House Games in Bellflower, and it's $5 a day for a table, and you can reserve a table for $5, and they've got all the stuff you need except for your figures and your dice and your measuring tape or whatever you use for your gaming needs. I mean, these guys, it's amazing. I love the friendly local game stores. I love that. Okay, that is a huge benefit. Um, you still have to clean up after yourself, but you don't have to haul bunches and bunches and bunches of stuff. Okay. Um, However, playing at home. Playing at home has two benefits that I like, and this is saying a lot. Me being a 26 carat extrovert that loves talking to new people. Okay. It has the benefits of being able to play whatever edition you want without strangers coming along and yucking on your yum. Okay. That's a huge thing. There have been quite a few times where I've had to give the guys the Sam Jackson look when I was playing a game, and they're like, "What are you playing, Fluff? Why don't you do that?" And I'm like, "Didn't nobody ask you a damn thing?" I mean, seriously, that's I've had to do that a couple of times at a gaming store. Um, and I say a couple of times, I hang out at gaming stores pretty much whenever I leave the house, which used to be almost every day. Um, but there's a lot of folks I can, if I get my friends um to meet up with me at a gaming store, we can play third edition War Machine. We can play ninth edition 40K in theory. um, we can play BattleTech from the 80s. It is possible to do all of those things. Um, I know my best friend and we live about 30 minutes apart in driving. And he does not like army level games. He likes skirmish level games. Um, so if he actually had the time, I could go to his house and we can play Combat Patrol, or we could play War Machine Third Edition, or BattleTech from Catalyst Games, or BattleTech from FASA Fan Pro. We can do either one of those things um, without being around other people, without having to field 1,000 questions that mostly consist of why are you doing it that way and not the way that I would. Okay. Um, Not to mention, I can smoke in his backyard. I can't smoke at the game store. Okay, so that's kind of a thing. However, playing at a game club or a game store has other advantages as well. Okay? The number one advantage that I find in my life that playing at a gaming store gives. I thought I put you on do not disturb. Um is a neutral meeting point. Okay? Cuz sometimes my house isn't clean. And by sometimes I mean sometimes my house is clean. Most of the time it isn't. Um a lot of the times my friends that I game with don't have the space to do the type of games um that we might want to play. My best friend has been building a table to replicate the Iceberg Lounge for the Batman miniatures game for like 3 or 4 years. He has nowhere to put it. And it's kind of hard to game there sometimes because we have to make our way around this piece of terrain that isn't completely put together. So we can meet up at a gaming store and play a game. Although my favorite, and it doesn't seem like it, but just let me cook. My favorite advantage to playing at a friendly local gaming store is when I'm not playing something that has a major tournament scene. I can meet new players and get them interested in playing a game for fun. Now, since 3D printer go burr, I'm a really big fan of dead games. All right, I'm gonna do a YouTube video on it probably this weekend. Um, and what that means is games that you can't find the figures for, but you can find the rules for. And yeah, I'm a really big fan of that. Hero Clicks is a fun game. Marvel Crisis Protocol is also a fun game, but it's starting to get kind of expensive. But when it comes down to it, someone can come up to me saying, "Hey, are you playing this?" And I'll be like, "No, I'm playing that. You want to learn?" And they'll go, "Yeah, sure." And then I've made a new friend. Um, and the idea of opening up your gaming circle is very, very, very difficult if playing at home is the primary way that you play your games. Okay? I know out here in Southern California, it's odd. See, I'm a native Angelino, and being a native Angelino, as in born and raised, I know a lot of transplants, and a lot of transplants have come here looking for careers in entertainment on one level or another, which means they are always on the grind, trying to get to the next audition, all that other stuff. Mm. And and that means there's hardly any time to come over and hang out. Not to mention a lot of folks are very guarded, okay? So getting my friends who just aren't interested in playing games to come over and play a game can be a Herculean task sometimes. Um, but meeting up at a local gaming store, um, and making friends with the local staff and the regulars at the gaming store can really expand. It can really expand your, I don't want to say horizons, but it can expand your roster. Let's see. Oh, that happened to me in a gaming store. A very nice young man was so passionate about this game. Next thing I know, I was playing. Are you talking about me or someone else? I'm not quite sure. Let's see. Yeah, very little foot traffic passing through my house to see the games and ask what's up. Yes, very little. And that's as it should be. The last thing I want is to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning having people I don't know in my house looking at my miniatures going, "What's up with that?" Um, I shut the doors at 1 a.m. So yeah, that's kind of. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Strangers don't just come trancing through my house. Um, so I mean, a lot of these things are back and forth, but there's no one way to do it. There really isn't. Okay, guys. Um, when these things come down to all of this, all of these illusions that you got to deal with, what it comes down to is yes, in any game, you can play what you want, provided you have someone to play with and somewhere to play. And if you're new to a lot of these games, as I am, well, I don't know if I'm new to 40K anymore. Ernie, if you're still watching, let me know. Am I new? Um, it becomes very easy to get caught up in following the meta, following the drama, just following all the stuff that comes down to it. What's the new data slate? What's the latest errata? Oh, this guy that I wanted to play is no longer allowed. This card's been banned. This card hasn't been banned. Now I have to retune my whole deck. All of that can be very overwhelming. Okay? All of it can be. But like smoke and mirrors, they're all illusions. All right? Um One of the things that put me on this kick, other than finding my apotheosis book, was I finally managed to finish my collection for Arcs of Omen and Boarding Actions. Um, Again, I'm not a big Games Workshop fan. They do put out some really good miniatures and technically some good games. I'm still checking, but as you guys know, I play one page rules. But at the end of ninth edition, when Arcs of Omen and Boarding Actions came out, I'm like, that looks super cool. And I went on this quest to build like an indoor kind of maze thing to play tabletop miniatures on that I use for one page rules. I'm going to use for 40K eventually, especially with the Boarding Actions games. Except I'm gonna say 5 to 600 point games because all the boarding actions tend to have a centerpiece. But okay, not the new ones, but we'll get onto that at a different time. And of course, I'm gonna, like I said, some 40K stuff, some OPR stuff. I'm definitely gonna use it for Stargrave, uh, um, and possibly Frostgrave or some fantasy games. Just some good indoor maze dungeon crawl type things, and that stuff plus combat patrol are the things that really got me into Games Workshop. However, um once Games Workshop released 10th edition, boarding actions went right out the window. And a lot of the times when companies release something, they'll release something else very quickly and make the thing that you spent your time, money, effort, and emotional spoons on completely obsolete. Two players who are following the meta and playing in tournaments. And this is the point that I'm making, okay? You can play. Thank you. Novice I will take because I'm still but an egg when it comes to gameplay. Um you know, when you decide that you want to play a game, as long as you have someone that you want to play a game with, you're never outdated. You don't have to keep up with the meta. All of these things are myths, okay? Um they really are. I know the last time or one of the last times I was hanging out at the guild house, I was slapping some paint on some minis. Um I saw some folks pull out the kill team boarding actions thing and they were playing Arcs of Omen. And it was two people at a table playing Arcs of Omen. And I'm like, are you guys just playing the Kill Team Arcs of Omens? And they're like, yeah, it's really cool. I'm like, oh my God, that is so cool. That is so great. Just to see two people playing a thing and not going, whoop, spent the money on Arcs of Omens, so we're not going to do that anymore. You know, um, I get it. And when I say I get it, I literally mean I understand. A lot of this is marketing. Okay. Most of it is marketing. Okay. It's buy the new thing, buy the new thing. We have to keep the stock price up. We got to keep you interested. Come on, buy the new thing. Look, we just released a new thing. Buy the new thing. Look, we just cut out an entire faction because we're upgrading the entire faction. Buy the new faction. I get it. And it can go to a fever pitch if most of your time is spent chasing the meta to be cool for the next Las Vegas Open or the next big tournament like Gen Con or Comic Con or something like that. Okay. However, if you are getting into a game because it looks like something that will be fun to do with your friends, then get into the game and play that game with your friends. All right. Now, there's another part that I do have to another part that I do have to bring up, and this is big. Okay, this is really, 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 really big. There are two elephants left in this room. Okay, and here's the first elephant. When there is a friend in your gaming group that chases the meta when no one else does. Okay, that's a rough one. Okay, I know. Mm, more coffee time. I know when I was in to a lot of games because I worked at the game store. There were a lot of folks, specifically one. He's a lawyer now, and he was a junior in college. No, no, he was a freshman in college when he first started coming into the store. And he only played the meta. He only played the latest update to the rules. And I mean the absolute latest. Like, um, the store opened at 10, the errata came out at 8. Okay? And I didn't have the internet. So he would be in at about 1, wanting to test the new errata when no one else had read it. He was just on top of all that. And he would build these strategies and games. I mean, the theory crafting and stuff, that was his jam. Okay? And when you have friends, a friend, specifically a singular friend within the games or within your gaming group that you notice does this, does all the theory crafting, and I'm not saying they're power gamers, um, as an epithet. Okay, I'm not saying that. Okay, because there's a lot of people out there that enjoy breaking games. That is their aspect to the hobby. That is what they do. They come up with the unbeatable combinations. They come up with winning by not letting anyone else play. Um, and that tends to require a talk. Okay. Because context determines meaning in just about anything. Okay. Seriously speaking, context determines everything. Um, when I had a friend that did that, actually, don't even have to talk about a friend. I will talk about a guy at my friendly local gaming store. That is the only way he plays. Okay. Oh, yeah, they can. Competitive players can do a lot of damage. There's a guy at the friendly local gaming store. One of them, one of the many that I go to. Yeah, I spend a lot of money in gas to go to gaming stores, guys. And I'm always vetting them to see which ones to recommend on the channel. And there is a guy that no one wants to play with because one, um, he powers through things and tries to make sure that he wins by not letting the other people play. And two, and this is big, he's a dick about it. All right. And that is the number one answer to this particular situation. If you have that guy in your group, um, they don't marriage or they don't merit um exile. All right. I'm Generation X. So to you millennials and Generation Z and some alphas that might be watching, I come from a time where people were not disposable. Okay. Um, I'm just of a culture where if you have a difference with someone, you work through that difference. You at least try and talk it out. And if you can't talk it out, you fight it out. And if you can't talk it out and fight it out, then you keep your distance. Not that person's socks don't match, ghost them. Okay? Different time, different rules. But if you have a friend that's like this, okay, um, if you can show them that they are not fun to play with because they go sour grapes, because all they're doing is trying to win. If you can get that lesson through their head, then there's a chance. A lot of people are so convinced they're not like that that sometimes you do got to walk away. But the effort is there. And that is the first elephant in the room. Okay? Because there are a lot of people that want to not lose so badly that they'll build their list or they will copy someone's list from the internet that won the last 4 tournaments. Um, and they'll do a lot of things to make sure that the numbers are on their side and stuff like that. But it's always important to make sure that the people in your group are gaming for the same reason. And that reason is so that everyone around can have fun. Okay? Now, there's always going to be a person or two that cannot have fun unless they win. Like we talked about on Wednesday, you're taught it's not about winning or losing, it's how you play the game. But don't lose. Don't you ever lose. You have to win. The difference between what you're told and what you're taught. And some folks, you know, some folks are taught that losing a game is a reflection of their intellect. And that is a deeper, deeper thing. And maybe you don't want to play with those folks. Um, what I would recommend, and this is just the opinion of Back on the Deck Productions, is tell the people that are on that list that they're on the list, why they're on that list, and what they can do to get off of that list. And then give them the chance to show you differently. You know, a lot of people don't want to deal with that. That's on y'all. That's just where I'm coming from, and that's just what I do. um, Victory over death, wah, or victory over death, whack. You know, and again, when it all costs, players are not bad people or terrible necessarily. Just a matter of sometimes they're not fun to play with. Okay, so there is that. Hang on. That's the first elephant in the room. The second elephant in the room, when it comes down to this, is the friend that honestly believes that they are going to play with other people. And what do I mean by that? I don't want this to sound condescending, but it probably will. I've known a lot of people over the years that practice tournamenting with the intentions of one day going to a tournament, and years will pass, and they never go to one organized play thing. Not at a store, not at a convention, no nothing. They just, they study the rules and all that stuff. And when it comes down to that, sometimes it's best to sit down with your friends and to become clear to yourself and to them why you're actually in to the thing that you're doing. Okay? Um my best friend is a hobby. He's a hobby guy. And I'm always shaking my fist at him because I'm like, dude, you get into a game. All right? You get into a game, you get me hyped on the game. I spend the money on the game, which is hard for me to come by. I spend the time in assembling everything and learning the rules and setting up all this stuff. Excuse me. And then we play one game and then you're on to the next thing. I'm like, I don't make the amount of money that you do. Do you like playing or do you like buying and hobbying? Because, you know, if we were talking just last night, as a matter of fact, and he kind of wants to get into Kill Team, and we were talking about splitting the Kill Team box with the elves and the Night Lords. Okay, and oh my god, I think Xenothate's ears just perked up. Yeah, I said Night Lords, and I'm like, okay, if we do this, are we actually gonna play, or is this gonna be like? And I rattled off a whole list of games over the past 20 years. And he's like, no, I mean, I would love to play. And I'm like, I know that you love to play, but I'm not asking your intention. I'm asking your will. Because I'm broke right now. So on, going in on half a box of half a Kill Team box, or even buying STLs for proxy models. Yeah, what's this? The reverse is just as bad. I don't know what you mean by that, Daryl. Please elaborate. Um, and so I'm kind of thinking about this because now my thing is I'm not gonna buy or print yet something else for my pile of shame. Um, I can't play Star Wars forever. No, no, you can't. But you can play with your Star Wars figures forever. You just don't always have to play Legion or the RPG or the new one that just came out, Star Wars. Well, it's from Atomic Mass. Um, so yeah, reverse of Night Lords, Day Peasants. Yes, the Day Peasants. They're in Age of Sigmar. They're called farmers. Um, sorry, they're called mission objectives. But yeah, but seriously speaking, when I sat down with my friend, we can have that conversation now because I pointed out how I get into games to play them, and he likes to make models and build terrain and stuff like that. So I'm like, you gotta um you gotta pull back on the games you get me hyped about, because if we're not gonna play, I'm not gonna spend the time. Okay. OPR will do me good pretty much forever. I am loving that game. They just released another rules update, and I'm into the rules update because it's an indie game and they're always ironing out kinks to get to the game that they really wanted to publish, but they needed money in the meantime. So, yeah, I'm like, I'm looking at the new rules. I'm going to see if I like them. And if I don't, I'll play the previous editions because that's just how I roll. But I do really like the OPR system. I like the fact that it plays fast and that I'm not held prisoner by playing a game all weekend, you know. Um, but at the same time, okay, at the same time, guys, um, there is a lot that can go into these things. But the illusion of all of these things, the illusions of chasing the meta and keeping up with the modern and new is better, those are all illusions meant to keep you buying more stuff. So play what you want, play with who you want or who you can, and keep in mind that we do this stuff because it's fun. Okay. I used to have a group of friends from the Renaissance Fair, and we played Magic together. And we only used the cards that we had owned for 5 years or more. Because we liked playing Magic. It was fun. It was a wholesome way to kill a few hours on a weekend when we didn't feel like driving to God knows where. We didn't have money for clubs. And we were kind of getting a little too old for the clubs. Like, um, I'm on the better side of 50. I don't get turned. you know. Even if I want to get turned, there's like, yeah, I'm gonna get turned. And then my back goes, well, you can get turned. I'm gonna stay bent. And in the morning, when you're not as when you're no longer turned, I'm gonna show you what turn is. Because my spine could be turned all the way around. And I'm like, I can't get out of bed. Um, so when it comes to a lot of this stuff, that's just where I stand. But all of these things have the illusion of this is what you need in order to play. But it's not true. It's absolutely not true. Um, my boy watching on YouTube right now, is one of the people I know who genuinely loves Warhammer in all aspects. I've talked to him. He loves the lore. The day that I met him, he was actually playing a game. Okay. And I got nothing but respect for that. Nothing. I know if he's not working and I've got gas money, I can call him up and say, hey, let's get a game in, and he will play. I think he has like 4 factions. I know Tau is one of them, and I know he has the obligatory Space Marine ones. I'm not sure if they're chaos or regular, but they're out there. And he genuinely loves to play. And I'm sure I can look at him saying, can we only use the index cards? I've got all the sets of index cards, so, let's just use these and just play that way. And I'm pretty sure he would be down. Um, and there are a lot of players that are like, I'm practicing for this tournament that's coming up in 6 months, and I don't have to play with them. But that doesn't mean I can't play. Okay? I'm fortunate because the owner of Guildhouse Games plays one page rules, and he's down for playing whatever with me because he knows I just like to play. I like playing games. Pew pew, bash my toys together. Let's have fun with that. You know, so I'm fortunate in that. But I'm letting you guys know that cultivating that, being clear about why you want to play this game, and I don't care what game you're playing, Magic, 40K, Hero Clicks, Crisis Protocol, Star Wars Legion, Star Wars Shatterpoint. Haha, I remembered the name. Um, Lord of the Rings from Games Workshop, Game of Thrones. Doesn't matter what you're playing as long as you're clear about why you're playing and you can find someone that has the same principles, the same gaming principles, you know? Um, let's check the email real quick because I don't know if I've gotten any email. Well, first off, let's check the Discord. Hello, Discord. Yep, no questions on Discord. Let me check the email. Each day, I hope that it's from a female. Uh huh. Yep. Yep. Well, that's nice. I paid a bill. Ugh. Okay. All right. Okay. 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 Good. 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 All right. No emails that we got. And let's see here. I want to open this up to questions. Just um throw me a bit or two and feel free to ask a question. Now, if you guys are wondering the stuff that I'm working on at the moment, I can tell you. I wanted to put together some boards and stuff that I really could use in a multifaceted kind of way. All right? Because I have a lot of different games, and though I have the space, I'd like to keep the space. Um, so yesterday I spent the day essentially using FD or not FDM, using um, foam core board to make some gridded boards. Okay, not fancy terrain or anything like that. I wanted to make some useful terrain. And I made grids. I think I'm going to redo them though because I found out better techniques and I still have enough Mod Podge and paint. But um, I decided to go with inch and a half squares. And this is why. I put this together so that I could play Space Hulk. Because as you guys know, I got the rules to Space Hulk a few days ago. Um, because you can't buy it. You can't buy Space Hulk. But if you're industrious, you can find the rules to the latest edition. And I've got a bunch of 40k proxies that I use, and I'm like, yeah, all right. Eventually, I may get my hands on a copy of Aliens: A Good Day in the Core, but I like the one-page rules. Alien hive models better than I like xenomorphs. I mean, it goes alien hives, Tyranids, xenomorphs, and I'm good. Um. Oh, okay. We'll get there, Knights of G. Um. So, I essentially used a grid to make inch and a half squares because the inch and a half squares can hold a 40 millimeter base, where you can still use squares as though you're playing Space Hulk and HeroClix. Um, and if you do four 1.5 or yeah inch and a half squares together, you got 3 inch squares, which is also good for Dead Zone. And all of this is really cool, because again, 4 pieces of foam core is almost the size, yeah, fourth edition D&D with the squares in, or any edition of D&D with the squares, to tell you the truth, because all the D&D minis tend to use squares, especially since I do love me some epic encounters from Steamforge Games, and they come with their miniatures. Um, so I kind of put those together, but it took a little longer because I had to go to the dollar store and get some rollers and a few things like that. And I also had to get the foam core because Plum ran out, and the foam core over by where I am is like $2. I was hoping that it'd still be like a buck and a quarter, but yeah, there you go. Now to answer your question, Knights of G, what do I use to make terrain? The answer to that is everything. um, Sometimes I might buy some terrain pieces, like these guys from Tabletop Combat were donations, and they're really cool doors. so I can use these um for my Arcs of Omen slash Space Hulk stuff, or anything I want to do inside a spaceship, be it um Stargrave, um Arcs of Omen, um Esper Genesis, whatever I'm gonna play on that. Um but we got this guy right here that I'm trying to come up with a paint scheme for, and I have to put a new door on him. And this is an electrical box that you get from your big box store like Home Depot or the hardware store. These things are about $5 or $6, and then we cover them in greebles. I'm gonna I've decided to make my making terrain show a YouTube thing so that we can get more subscribers and things like that. Um and I've been experimenting with hundreds. Okay, it seems like hundreds, but I've spent hundreds on making game boards. In fact, I like mats the most. Okay. Um Now I live in California, and pink foam is weird here. It is possible to go to like Home Depot or Lowe's and buy pink foam, but they don't really have the full drywall size sheets, unless you put them on special order. Um, Same with the 2 inch thick, but I can buy the 1 inch thick 2 by 2 foot boards for like $8 a piece. And I tend to use that for other stuff, like if I want to make a big terrain piece. Um, but the main things that I use for making boards, um, is yeah, it's been hard. They just kind of disappeared. It's an environmental thing because that kind of internal house insulation, if it burns, it goes really bad. And here in California, we only have 4 seasons of the year. That is spring, summer, wildfire, and award season. That's about it. So they tend not to use those things here in Southern California. Um, I can pick up the 2 foot ones when I go to like Las Vegas on those rare occasions, you know, and that's not going to happen very much because the motorcycle should be up and going next week, and I'm not taking a 4 foot by 8 foot piece of foam and trying to mount it on the back of a motorcycle and drive from Las Vegas to Los Angeles. I'd go airborne. So that's the thing. They are legal here now, but they're just hard to get, and I don't like using the popcorn foam. I just don't like it. But most of the time, like, I make my buildings out of MDF or medium weight chipboard that you can get from Amazon. Major shouts out to Wylock Armories. Wylock and Black Magic Crafts are like, they were the dudes that really showed me I could still do this because I haven't done any special effects work since the early 2000s. And um but mainly medium chipboard, um, various box shape things that I can get from places, and yeah, that's pretty much the thing. Um, yeah, that's the stuff. Now, I do make collapsible terrain for modern sci-fi and fantasy that I want to put up for sale, but as I said, I'm here in LA, and people in LA have this reputation for flaky, and they're not exactly flaky. What they are enthusiastic about new, and then they forget as soon as you're out of sight. It's like jingling keys everywhere. Um, so I do make collapsible terrain and stuff, so I can fit everything on the motorcycle, and I tend to make that stuff out of cardboard and stickers. Um, or cardboard and corrugated paper. But and for the stuff that I was trying to sell all those years ago, I used the same techniques for collapsible stuff in MDF. And that stuff can actually hold my weight. It's creepy. But yeah, I can use the buildings that I make as stilts. Um but I kind of stopped making them because I only need so much terrain, and I have enough terrain at this point between all of the experiments and the stuff that I put on the market and things like that to realistically fill a 10-foot by 10-foot board and have a huge game of something not played on a grid. But I decided to make the grid yesterday so that I can actually play a few games, get them on film, see what they look like as battle reports and things like that, and move the channel forward. Let's see here. Daryl, one of the worst feelings is buying a game, then never getting the chance to play it. Yeah, yeah, that is huge. Okay, because I was at Target the other day and I saw that Monopoly still costs $20, and that's fine. But everything else, I measure things by the amount of labor one has to put up at a job in order to get that money. So if a person works at McDonald's, um, in LA at least, a Monopoly board costs an hour of labor. I got to work an hour to buy Monopoly. Um, I got to work most of a day. Actually, no, I have to work a whole day and then some to get a combat patrol. You know, so that's kind of how I measure these things. And that is one of the reasons that one, 3D printer go burr, and second, I'm really economical when it comes to what games I'm going to spend money on versus the effort I put in, again, guys, one of my favorite miniatures games, especially from the brand new kick, is still Carnivale from Tabletop Combat. One of the best, absolute best. Let me pull this up real quick. Still one of the absolute best starter sets that are out there. Um, because for $120, you get everything you need to play, and you can treat it like a board game. Because once everything is painted, it's done, and you can play it like you would play Zombie Side. Um, Carnivane TT Combat. Um, it's really fun. The rules are free, and yeah, no, not EU shipping. Hang on, let me just put this out there. Ah, yeah, that's nice. I'm not in the EU. Let's just do a quick thing. 65 British pounds to US dollar. Okay. So yeah, the Carnivale two-player starter set from Tabletop Combat, if you buy from the company directly, okay, is 65 pounds for the full rule book, two fully playable teams, a 3x3 foot board, all the measuring things that you need for it, a bunch of cardboard buildings, all of the miniatures, and the dice. And that actually comes out to $81. You know, I mean, that right there is huge. Okay. $81 for everything you need to play. That's actually cheaper than Zombicide. And it's a really fun game. It comes with everything you need. Boom, I'm all there. I already have it. So I'm happy with that. And if you want to buy more stuff, um then you can, but you don't have to. And it doesn't have a very big tournament scene anywhere that I've seen outside of Spain. So you don't have to chase the meta. Same with Conflict 47 or Turnip 49. If you really want to get into tabletop miniatures, boom, there you go. Um, and I tell every new player about tabletop role playing games. All you need for D&D at the bare minimum is the player's handbook. Now you could go the full shebang and get the player's handbook, Dungeon Master's Guide, and Monster Manual, and you were set for the next 20 years. You don't have to keep up with all of the new stuff. You don't have to, you know. And it's not like the companies are dying, and if they don't get my $800 for all the stuff they're going out, they're gonna go out of business. No, they're the big companies. They have these kinds of purchases calculated within their quarterly estimations. Okay, they really do. That's how business works. Um, but yeah, let's see here. Yep. Oh, you're trying to rank a website so you can sell some cash for stuff. Yeah, exactly. You know. Um, so when it comes down to this, this is older gamer talking to a lot of younger gamers that are out there. And when I say younger, I don't mean you're young in years. I'm talking experience, okay? Um, Make sure that you can play with people that are going to be in your life, all right? That way you don't have to chase the meta. Okay? If you really like a property or a game or an IP or something like that, and you want to get into it and you want to buy all the things because you like buying stuff. Sometimes people just like buying new things. Retail therapy is real. There are studies. Okay. Um, then do you. Yeah, totally do you, boo. Um, but if you're out there and you want to get involved in this because you want a sense of community, get into the whole sense of community. You can have those conversations and things like that. But understand this. When it comes to a lot of games, okay? And this is big. I learned this in 40K years and years and years ago because it kind of, I guess you can say, infiltrated a lot of other miniatures games. I know it came into War Machine. Um Param, the guy who came up with one page rules, said people play simple games and talk about playing complicated games. Part of being in a community, Warhammer 40K, D&D, Magic the Gathering, is playing. However, that's not the only part, okay? Um a lot of the times just talking about the game is enough for a lot of people, all right? Like I said, um I'm with Ernesto Barajas. With me being a novice, okay, I don't have a green thumb. I got a yellow thumb. All right. Um, in Warhammer 40K, but I can talk lore. I can talk meta analysis. I can talk the data sheets. I'm terrible at playing because I don't have that much experience, but I can talk a lot about the Horus Heresy or the War in Heaven. I've read, um, I think 15 40K books at this point. I know, but still, that's still 3% of what's out there. um, I can talk 40K with a lot of folks, and that does solidify me into the community aspect. All right. So understand that if you're looking to get into a lot of this stuff, before you spend any money, ask yourself what part of it that you really like, because you may find that you don't have to buy anything. Or if you're looking into getting it, if you want to play the game, all right? I promise you there are people that will play with unpainted miniatures. It's just the loudest people are like, "No, my immersion." Those are the loudest ones. There's a lot of people that will play for the sake of playing. There are a lot of folks out there that will play the game with just nickels and dimes. And I'm not just talking 40K. I'm talking War Machine, Carnivale, D&D. It don't matter. You know, there are people out there that love playing for the sake of playing. And if you're going to be that type of person, you just got to find them. If you're into the modeling thing, then go ahead, freaking go nuts. Just try and manage your pile of shame for your own mental health. you know, but all of these things that give you the impression that you must, it's all an illusion put out by marketing departments to make sure that people keep buying their stuff. Okay? Um and I'm here to liberate you from that thinking. of you have to, if you're going to get into this, you need this and that and this and that, and you have to pay $500 or $600 to get yourself 1,000 point army in 40K. No, you don't. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You know, learn tabletop simulator. See if you dig playing. Talk to your friends who are already in it. Help. Um, get a demo or two at a friendly local gaming store, not a Warhammer store, because they're going to try and sell you. But let them know you don't know whether or not you want to buy something or you want to buy into it, but you want to try before you buy. And most places are cool with that. You know, especially in this economy. Everybody knows in this economy, we all broke, right? $70 worth of groceries is not that much food. So, you know, you don't have to, regardless of the social and peer pressure. All of those things are illusions, okay? And if you want to get into the stuff, there are hundreds of lore channels for 40K. There are dozens of lore channels for War Machine. There's dozens of lore channels for Carnivale. If you want to get into superhero games, there are hundreds of channels on YouTube and Twitch that literally summarize comic book plot lines. There's loads of stuff out there. If you want a new hobby, you don't have to do anything, because so much of the work that we put up, that we had to do in the 80s is all done for you now. And that is a great thing, because now you can try just about anything and then look and see what you're actually passionate about and then go for that. Now, if y'all got any other questions, all right, any other questions or comments or anything like that, well, you are going to have to pull up your email and type in back in the deck at gmail.com. That's BACKINTHEDECK at gmail.com, where you can reach out to me and ask me questions, ask if I got any suggestions or anything on that front. And I'll be happy to talk to people. Also on my Twitter, my Instagram, my TikTok, my Facebook group, Deckers on the Book. I want to thank you guys for being here today. And happy Friday. You guys are going to have a really good weekend. Zan, I'm glad you were able to stay for the whole show. Same with Sofa King. Same with Niarn Alarkino and Knights of G. All you guys out there throwing me comments, interacting. This is the real cool stuff. And of course, if one of you guys would be nice enough to throw up the Discord, that would be great. Feel free to go in there. And if you guys want to help support the channel, I'm putting in links in both chats to the places that you can support us, the Patreon, the donations. Those are direct donations that go directly to the company. You can always subscribe here on Twitch using your Amazon Prime gaming account. If you've got Amazon Prime, it's just sitting there and it won't cost you anything to use. And of course, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have your friends subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's just a click. It doesn't cost anything, but it really, really moves me forward in being able to do this full time and not having to take a month off because I'm unloading cargo containers from the docks. All right. Thank all of you guys for being here. And if anybody tells you guys that you can't play a game or get into a property because of the circumstances of your birth, be it race, religion, creed, gender identity, sexual orientation, disabilities, or your budget, you can just tell them to take any cards that they're playing on you and put it back in the deck. This is Solar Gray, the Cinematic Sorcerer, saying thank you for joining me, and we will see you next time on the dark side of the room.